this is all a scam. I mean, we got people that's getting ready to retire that's going to try to live off $2,000 to $3,000. Impossible. Because what happens, it comes up here, we spend it. We're $35 trillion in debt. We don't have union money. We're dead broke. We are in huge trouble. In this body, we had better start figuring that out, because we're going to have a run on this city here soon, and there's going to be about 150 million people coming up here saying, where's our damn money that we paid in? I could have put my Social Security money, 40 years, in tax, in the market, and probably be worth 8 to 10 million today. But the federal government wasted it. People are going to have to work, continue to work longer and longer. Am I right, Ms. Ginger? Can you say something about Social Security?
Yeah, and I'd like to point out, when Social Security was first founded, those who established it was started out as a 2% tax, and they said this will never take more than 6% of your income. Today, it takes 12.4%, and depending on whether you go with CBO or Social Security trustees, it needs to take between 15.8 and 17.5.
Good to have you as we start the second quarter together. So why are you finding that millennials and Gen Z don't have enough money saved for retirement?
They're just not focused on it. They're focused on, raising children and buying houses, and it's just not their number one focus. But the reality is that if you're 20 or 30 years old, you have a tremendous advantage over people like, myself or even Warren Buffett, because you have time. Warren Buffett would probably trade his fortune to be 20 or 30 years old again. So you have an advantage he doesn't have. And when you're a millennial and you're thinking about retirement, he's got to keep it simple. There's three main steps. You take advantage of compound interest, you legally avoid taxes, and you keep it simple, right? If you have a 401k, you should take advantage of that 401k. Take the match. The match is free money. So at least put as much in there to get the match. If you can max it out, that's great. And then a Roth IRA is fantastic as well. I mean, one of the biggest expenses we're going to have over the next 20, 30, 40 years is taxes. Millennials are going to have that expense. So if they can avoid those taxes, that's huge. So they start a Roth IRA. That money they make in there is tax-free money. And listen to this. If you put $7,000, and that's the max you can put into a Roth IRA right now if you're under the age of 50. So if you're a millennial, you can do that. If that money grows at market rates of return based on history, that's $7,000. If you're 20, when you're 70, 50 years from now, is worth over $800,000. That is the power of compound interest. So millennials should be encouraged because they have time for the magic of compound interest.
It is definitely something that I think, more education is key here, certainly, Ty. So I'm glad that you can join us. I also see, according to a 2020 Upwork report, that nearly half of millennials and Gen Z work freelance jobs. And so what are some of the retirement savings solutions, perhaps outside of that traditional 401k?
Well, the Roth IRA that I just mentioned is fantastic. If you have earned income, you can put money into that. If you own your own business, you can start a number of different kinds of retirement plans. A SEP IRA is a fantastic one because you can put a lot more than $7,000 into that as a self-employed type individual. You can use an annuity. An annuity will allow your money to grow tax deferred. So there's a number of tax free or tax smart options that you have as a millennial to take advantage of compound interest. And again, if you avoid taxes, you get to make money on the money that you would have sent to the IRS, compound interest on the money that you would have sent to the IRS. So that's huge. And a suggestion as an investment, what I would say, if you're 20 or 30 years old, you've got time to absorb the volatility of the market. You can use a very low fee index fund and allow your money to grow. If you're a little bit risk averse, there's options that you have where your money's protected against losses, and you can still grow your money as time goes on. But what I would say to millennials is get started soon, put as much money in as you can, and something is always better than nothing, right? If you can do something, get started, generate some momentum, right? And if you can live below your means, and not every millennial can, it's not easy out there right now with inflation the way we've had it, I recognize that. But if you can do something, do that. If you can get 10% of your income and put that away over a long period of time, that will be meaningful to you. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be part of the percentage of people that don't. You want to be part of the percentage of people who do have money in retirement, and getting started now is all the difference in the world.
So, Ty, walk us through just how much the average worker should be saving for retirement per year in their 20s and 30s.
Well, it is as much as they possibly can, right? And so different people are in different situations. But what I would say is I would start with 10%. If you can put 10% of that 401k, if you have that available to you, get the match, which is essentially free money, compound interest. If you don't have the 401k available to, we mentioned the Roth, but at least 10% of your income, right? And you don't you want to pay yourself first, right? And then put that money in a place where it's going to grow with compound interest. So a minimum of 10%, more if you can. But again, something is always better than nothing. It's important to get started. And as time goes on, as you get older and older, you want to put more and more in those plans, but you have more power of compound interest early. So
Yeah.
what I would say is 10% of your income is a good starting place.
Okay, good. So, how should young people prioritize what can be a difficult decision, right? Of saving for retirement versus expenses like paying down debt and saving for a home?
Great question. Great question. And those are the concerns that people have. What is my student debt? How do I pay that off? Paying or buying a house. You have to have a place to live. It's important to have to grow equity as time goes on. So it's a balancing act. What I would say is if you can buy, that's better than renting. In terms of paying down debt, it really comes down to what is the interest on that debt. If the interest on the debt is 12%, you want to pay that down as quickly as you possibly can. If the interest on the debt, maybe you have a mortgage at 3.25%, and many millennials do. Well, if you would prioritize the savings for retirement at that point, keep that loan because that loan's such at a low rate. So it really comes down to what's the interest rate? Can you make more than the interest rate that you're paying? Is there a tax advantage that goes along with the interest rate? And again, you want to keep it as simple as you can, but that's something to look at when it comes to debt and owning a home. I'm a big proponent of owning a home. And maybe you do that first before you plan for retirement. Maybe you do a little bit of both. It comes down to your own individual situation.
You know, there's been so much hype around artificial intelligence since the first use case of ChatGPT toward the end of 2022. And so, past 15 months or so, I mean, we've seen these tech stocks, especially AI plays like NVIDIA, absolutely skyrocket. Even cryptocurrency this year, a good gauge of risk appetite in the stock market, definitely took off in the first quarter on the back of those Bitcoin ETF approvals. AI stocks, cryptocurrency, are those investments that you would recommend to people in their retirement portfolios?
The answer is if you're 20 or 30 years old, absolutely yes, in moderation.